Okay, welcome to your first lesson. So this is going to be a perfect lesson if you haven't yet got an instrument. You can do this without an instrument. What we're going to look at is how to find the notes on your instrument. But before we do that, what we need to do is learn what the notes are so that we know what we're looking for. And this is just a picture I've done. So I call this the note circle. It's not really a technical theory thing. I call it the note circle because I draw it in a circle because it's a good way to make it make sense. So there's a picture of a keyboard down the bottom here. Don't worry if you're not a keyboard player. I'm not going to force you to learn the keyboard right now, but I'm just going to use that to kind of show you physically where some of these notes fit together. Cool, so what we have is we have 12 notes in music. Basically it's the alphabet from A to G and then it starts over again, but in between you have these half steps. So you've got flats and sharps. So just to explain flats and sharps first, so flat is the little B looking sign. It's hard to see there, but it has a little point on the bottom of it, so it's like a lowercase b but with a point, and sharp is like the hashtag sign. Cool. So what we mean when we do that is if we take a note, say we had this note here and we were to sharpen that, that would mean that we're moving it one semitone up. Okay, so sharpen, moving up like a point. If we were to flatten that note, we would come down one note. Okay, probably bad example there because there's actually no sharp or flat. So if we were to flatten this note here, we would land on this black key here. Okay, so if we talk about, say, B flat, this key here happens to be B, making this B flat. Okay, this key here is a C, so we come up one semitone or half tone, and that becomes C sharp. So just to explain semitone and half tone, a full tone is basically two of those. So sometimes it'll be called a semitone, sometimes people will call it a half tone. A full tone is just twice as much as that. So if you imagined all these keys were laid out just one after the other, so we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they're all in a straight line. Then a half tone is one step, full tone being two steps, missing one out in the middle. Okay, so in the case of this one, a tone from the B here would come up to our C sharp, a semitone comes to our C. Okay, so back to the circle. A lot of things you'll see written in music start at C, and there's reason for that we'll get into as soon as we get into doing our scales. But just for the purpose of this, I started at A, so it relates more to the alphabet and makes more sense. So this is basically set out like a clock. It just goes round and round and round. Okay, the pitches get higher and higher and higher, or lower and lower and lower if we go backwards. But all we have here is we have A, so the big letters here are the most common ways you will see them written in theory, but often you'll see these other ones as well. So I'll explain why there's two shortly. So we go A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Okay, so you'll notice there's two steps here, E and F, and B and C have no sharp or flat in between them. And these are these keys here, so B and C, and E and F. Okay? No sharp or flat between those. So just remember B, C, E, F. Those are the ones with no sharp or flat. Everything else has a sharp or flat in between it. So this one here that we were looking at before, the B flat, if we were to take the A here, and then sharpen that, so move it up one semitone, we would end up with A sharp. Taking the B and flattening it a semitone is B flat. It's actually the same note. That note doesn't change, we just call it different things. Now what we call it in any particular song depends on the key signature to that song. But that's much more complicated to think about at the moment. But what you'll see is when you see a chord chart or something like that, you should see either sharps or flats in one song, but not both. Okay, and that's why a lot of the time we tend to see more sharps than flats. Just it's because of the key, but that's more complicated. We'll learn that later in the theory lessons and that sort of thing, and as we get further down the track. But just so you know, the notes that we're looking for, these are them here. So you can write those down. You can write it in a circle like that. And just keep going over them in your head and you'll get used to them. There's not that many to remember, and they'll be easier to remember as we look at all the instruments and how they fit on there.